The first thing you need to understand before I tell you this story is that some moments change the balance of the galaxy so quietly that nobody notices until years later, and if you enjoy stories about humans, aliens, and the strange lessons they teach each other, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now because this is one of those moments that people will be whispering about long after we're all dust. The detention wing smelled like burnt circuitry and old fear, the kind of recycled air that never quite forgets the screams that pass through it. Sergeant Marcus Hale hung suspended in magnetic restraints, his boots dangling a few centimeters above the metal floor, his uniform torn open and stiff with dried blood from the ambush that had collapsed 3 days earlier. What should have been a clean diplomatic extraction had turned into a massacre when the security corridor lit up with crossfire. He remembered diving across the shuttle ramp, remembered the kid behind him, remembered the heat of plasma chewing through the hull, and then waking up here with his wrists locked in humming cuffs and his ribs on fire. Across the corridor, in a smaller cell built with thicker shielding, sat the reason he was still breathing. The cub called Reth didn't move. He watched. His amber eyes tracked every guard, every flicker of light, every vibration in the deck plating. Reth belonged to the Varkesh, a predator species so new to interstellar politics that most of the coalition still treated them like a natural disaster that had learned to speak. Their homeworld made Earth look gentle. Storms that peeled mountains open. Oceans that boiled in seasonal cycles. Predators that hunted other predators for sport. And Reth, by Varkesh standards, was barely a child. He was supposed to be on a cultural exchange tour, learning languages and table manners and the strange human habit of laughing at inappropriate times. Marcus had been assigned as his escort because someone decided a veteran soldier with a decent sense of humor was the safest bridge between species. Now they were prisoners of the Koran Syndicate, and the guards thought they had captured a bargaining chip and a pet. They had no idea they were sharing a hallway with a future legend. One of the Koran enforcers leaned close to Marcus, its breath sour through the cracked visor of its helmet, a stun baton crackling in its grip. It asked, politely at first, where the coalition fleet was staging. Marcus smiled through split lips and told it a location that didn't exist. The baton came down against his side, and the world detonated into white pain. Electricity hijacked his muscles, locked his jaw, ripped a sound out of him he didn't recognize as his own. He tasted metal and smoke. Through the haze he saw Reth stand. The cub's posture changed in a way that bypassed language and went straight to instinct. Every predator in that corridor felt it. The enforcer raised the baton again, enjoying the ritual, but a voice cut through the air. Stop. Reth didn't shout. He didn't beg. He spoke with the calm certainty of gravity. The guard turned, amused, and strutted toward the cub's cell, tapping the barrier with the baton. It asked if it hurt to watch his protector suffer. Reth tilted his head, studying the guard like a puzzle already solved. He explained, softly, that Marcus had taken plasma fire meant for him. That humans did that. They stepped in front of danger for people who weren't even their own blood. The guard laughed and called humans weak. Reth smiled, and Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine because he'd seen that smile once before when the cub watched a documentary about wolves. Fascination mixed with respect. Reth said humans were pack hunters, and on his world, pack hunters were sacred. The guard stepped closer, confident in the barrier humming between them. It asked what a locked cub could possibly threaten. Reth placed his palm against the field. His claws glowed. Not metaphorically. They actually glowed, heat building along their edges until the air shimmered. Varkesh biology had a defense mechanism no one in the syndicate had bothered to research. When threatened, their bone blades could superheat to a molecular edge. The barrier flickered. The guard's laughter faltered. Reth explained balance, the ancient Varkesh law that every act demanded an answer. A life saved created a debt. A life threatened created another. He said the corridor was out of balance. Then the barrier died with a tired hiss. For a heartbeat nobody moved. The cub stepped into the hallway with the relaxed confidence of a creature that had already simulated every outcome. The guards fired. They missed. Reth blurred. Marcus would later struggle to describe those seconds because they didn't feel like a fight. They felt like a demonstration. Reth didn't rage. He didn't roar. He moved with surgical grace, turning joints the wrong direction, collapsing armored bodies with precise strikes, carving weapons in half without cutting flesh. 15 seconds after the first shot, the corridor was quiet except for groaning. Four enforcers lay alive and utterly broken, staring up at the cubs standing over their leader. Reth extended a glowing claw and hovered it above the guard's torso, explaining in a conversational tone that removing a single organ would restore balance. Marcus forced air into his lungs and croaked one word. "Don't." The cub looked at him. In those amber eyes Marcus saw the war between instinct and influence. The Varkesh hunter wanted symmetry. The student who had spent months absorbing human stories wanted something else. Reth withdrew his claws. He said balance didn't require becoming the monster. He melted Marcus's restraints with gentle precision and caught him before he hit the floor. He said humans had taught him a better weapon than revenge. Marcus asked what weapon that was while leaning on the cub's shoulder, ribs screaming. Reth grinned, warm and young again, and said mercy. He said the cruelest lesson you could give an enemy was letting them live with the image of what almost happened. As they limped toward the exit, alarms finally waking up around them, Marcus laughed through the pain and told the kid he'd make a terrifying diplomat. Reth said he learned from the best pack he'd ever seen. They left the facility behind with ships screaming overhead and rescue teams pouring in, and Marcus realized the Syndicate wasn't the important part of the story. The important part was what the galaxy had just witnessed, a Death World predator choosing restraint because a human taught him that strength wasn't measured in bodies. Years from now, when the Varkesh sat at negotiation tables and nobody quite understood why hardened warlords treated them with such careful respect, this corridor would be the reason. A cub learned mercy from a bleeding soldier, and an empire shifted 1 degree toward something better. If that stayed with you, subscribe for more stories from the edge of the stars, because the future of the galaxy is being written in moments just like this, quiet, brutal, and strangely hopeful.